1 degree outside pattern predictions. A look to the next 2 weeks of weather. Remember, of course, you can get the numbers, the data, the forecast for the next 2 weeks anytime in our app. It's totally free. It's 5 stars, 1 degree outside weather on the App Store and Google Play, and it works anywhere in the globe, right? This video is designed to augment that. So basically what we're doing here is giving you the explanation behind the forecast you see, and also, really important in an age of digital weather apps, what might change. Because a lot of times just getting that icon and that number, it's like, oh, is that it? No, it's not always the end of the story, right? And that's why we're here and why we do things the way we do. Jet stream, fast river of air high in the sky that steers storm systems along. We color in the faster winds with the greens that you see here. Erin gets swept off the coastline. We'll look more at Erin and what happens with that, how it relates to the pattern coming up. But notice a week from this video recording, so this would be Monday, August 25th. What do you have? A fast jet stream southwest to northeast. You know what this tells me? You're not getting a tropical system into New England. No way. You're not doing it with this kind of a pattern. Now, here's the thing. We're coming up into the time of year that we have to pay very close attention, because if I go out, let's say almost another week, if I go out all the way to Saturday, August 30th, notice that you start to get a trough, a dip in the jet stream digging into the nation's midsection, the Great Lakes. Why is that important? I had mentioned in last time's pattern predictions last week that when you get energy in that position, then you start to open up the door to the jet stream coming from south to north. In other words, you begin to open a window to the tropics. It never opens for long this time of the year because the next disturbance is always ready to come in. In fact, if I put things into motion out into the early part of September, up there it goes. Disturbances come by, you're back to a westerly jet stream wind again. But the moral of the story is, as we get to the end of August, the very final days, and the beginning of September, there will be recurring disturbances dropping into the Great Lakes in the nation's midsection that will open the window. In order for something to come up through that window, it has to be there in the first place. So you have to have the timing of the tropical system and the timing of the window work out perfectly. Statistically, that's very hard to do, and that's actually exactly why we don't get tropical systems in New England very often, right? Here's Erin. You know, by the way, what a forecast on Erin and pattern predictions last week. I was showing you that a lot of the guidance had taken this thing on a recurve, and I said, you can't always completely trust that, but this time around, definitely the case. What stands out to me is what happens to all Erin's energy after it goes by. That's it. This is 500 millibar heights. If you don't watch often, basically the cooler colors represent colder air in the atmosphere. So wait a minute. Erin goes from a warm tropical system to a cold core low as it comes east of Labrador. The reason that's important is because it starts to reshape the pattern. You start behind it to get a little bit of a ridge coming in across Nova Scotia. But look at this. You open up the door to colder energy dig down to the Great Lakes. Why do we care? Remember what I just said, right? Remember what I mentioned this in pattern predictions last week too. If you get disturbances in this position, that does allow for the window anyway to the tropics to open. So we do have something that comes along the coastline somewhere around the 27th of August. Perhaps we will see. Either way, at that point, I'm not sure your window is still entirely open. It is again, though, when the next disturbance digs in through the Great Lakes, we get to the final days of August. That's when you start to point stuff up from the eastern seaboard, right up the coastline again. Before, by the way, in early September, there are signals we may build another one of these big ridges across the mid-Atlantic and the southeastern United States. Just so you know, this means when you look at the temperature forecast going out to the beginning of September, you should have in the back of your mind, it may rise as we get close to it. We're right on the edge, but that's a lot of warmth that's going to try and rebuild across the eastern United States. It's reflected in the surface temperature forecast. I'm letting it play through over 14 days. So what's the point? The point is because as we get to the end of the 14-day period, bam, you've got more warmth that shows up, with the exception of some thunderstorm contamination here, but you've got more warmth that shows up in the eastern two-thirds on September 2nd than you do over the next several days. So the warmth is going to try to come back in the beginning of September. So when you look at the overall forecast, one thing that's interesting, I haven't changed this y-axis, this values on the temperature and how high up it goes from what we did last week. Last week, we were filling the chart because we had 90s, we had 70s. Right now, much more stable temperature pattern. All right, definitely down from where it's been, but much more stable. What I'm saying is toward the end of the period, you may see it start to trend upward again as we get to those early days of September. Overnight lows, very, very comfortable over the next 2 weeks. So just about every night, unless you're a ragweed allergy sufferer, you'll be able to open up those windows and cool the house down. Save a lot of money on electricity with the air conditioning. Precipitation forecast next 10 days. There's the corridor for Erin. What is this right here? Well, there's a front that comes in on Sunday into Monday, the 24th into 25th of August. That's got the best chance of giving us accumulating rainfall that would make a difference. Having said that, there's an elevated chance of at least scattered showers on a number of these days because of the disturbances that come through. So in our app, what you're looking for is you're looking for some of these to consolidate. As we get closer, you're going to find that that chance of precipitation stays higher on certain days and starts coming down on other days. So that's going to have to do with the timing of each of these disturbances as they come in. But you've at least got a propensity for increased showers here and there, scattered, because of the fact that you're getting this frequent energy coming by. And again, I think particularly somewhere around Sunday, Monday of the period is where we're talking about more of a focus when the front comes in with some more moisture. If you love the in-depth meteorology stuff, look, 1 Degree Outside enthusiasts, we've got beach and boating and golf, dozens of niche maps, forecast discussions that we do a few times a week. Inside Track is our podcast. And by the way, access right now, exclusive access for our members, any level, to our 24/7 weather network that we have rolled out. And that is coming for everybody soon. You're going to have to be a member for long in order to access that. That's how things look for now. Hope you have a great week. I will see you with more coming up all the time at onedegreeoutside.com.